Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for an update on economic and tourism support in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are joined today by Deputy Premier and Minister of Economic Development, Ranj Pillai, and Minister of Tourism and Culture, Jeanie McLean. Our sign language interpretation is being provided by Mary Thiessen. Following our speakers, we will go to the media for a round of questions. I will call you by name. You will each have one question and one follow-up. Before we begin, I would like to note that the Legislative Assembly is currently in session. Minister Pillai and Minister McLean may be required to vote in the Assembly, which means we may need to either pause or conclude the press conference. I want to thank you in advance for your patience and understanding. Lastly, if any of the reporters are having a problem hearing us, please email ecoinfo@gov.yk.ca. Minister Pillai.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Cameron. And again, for those following along with us today, apologies if we are interrupted. My colleague and I will go and take on a responsibility and get our vote in and hopefully be able to come back and continue with any questions you may have. So, folks, good afternoon. And I would like to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of the Kwalin First Nation and the Ta'an Quechan Council. It has been a year of unprecedented challenges for our territory. We've all experienced disruptions, whether it be social or economic. This pandemic has taken its toll. About 1 in 5 Yukon businesses laid off staff. Approximately 18% of businesses canceled or delayed their planning, hiring due to the pandemic. And the accommodation and food services sector reported that 63% of their workforce was laid off. I'm mindful of the fact that our jurisdiction has fared better than most. However, and we remain fortunate to have maintained a low COVID-19 case count. This is largely thanks to Yukoners who continued doing their part by following public health advice and contributing to this effort. The vaccine rollout continues at a brisk pace, with this being the second week of the general clinic here in Whitehorse and our mobile teams traveling to the communities to provide the second shot. Widespread immunization is the best way, of course, to protect ourselves, and I'm pleased to see Yukoners stepping up. The government of Yukon responded to this pandemic by rapidly deploying economic supports to stabilize our economy and maintain the health and safety of all Yukoners. We coordinated support with the Government of Canada and continue to work closely with the Canadian Northern Economic Development Agency to ensure businesses have flexible supports. To date, we have allocated more than $44.8 million across government to support Yukoners. This funding has enabled us to provide more than 40 individual initiatives to support Yukoners and their businesses. This includes direct programs and initiatives, indirect supports, regulatory supports, and infrastructure supports. It included the rapid deployment of programs and initiatives in early days of the pandemic, such as first, the quick formation of the Business Advisory Council to ensure the needs of Yukon's business community were heard, the Tourism Accommodation Sector Supplement, the Elevate Business Mentoring Program, the Yukon Business Relief Program, and the Temporary Support for Events Funding Program. We also have been monitoring the economy and adjusting our programming as needed. To provide Yukon's business and community with additional support, we recently announced a number of COVID-19 economic program extensions. We renewed the Yukon Business Relief Program and the paid sick leave rebate, and extended both programs until September 30th. Renewing these two key programs means that if you already use the program and maxed out, you will be able to reapply as of April 1st. We also announced the extension of a number of supports through our $15 million 3-year tourism relief and recovery plan. I'm very happy to be here today with Minister McLean, and we'll touch in a second a bit about the approach on tourism. But those supports included the extension of the $4 million tourism accommodation and non-accommodation sector supplements to September 30th, 2021, a $450,000 contribution to Yukon's Elevate program, which provides Yukon tourism businesses mentorship, training, funding for implementing recovery, which I know was highly successful, and also a program that I think was oversubscribed, and I know tourism, I think, stepped up to make sure, which is great, and a $300,000 enhancement to the Tourism Cooperative Marketing Fund, bringing the total to $1 million. For Yukon restaurants and other businesses with a liquor license, eligible businesses most in need will continue to receive a 25% discount on purchases. So again, a reduction in price for the vendors, but again, really so they could have a better sense of their bottom line and really trying to support hospitality. We also announced a new regional relief loan program for businesses, which covers costs that help businesses to stabilize and adapt.
Minister Pillai. Sorry to interrupt you, Minister Pillai. The bells are going off, which means a vote is required in the Yukon Legislative Assembly. I apologize, but we'll have to take a very brief break so the ministers can participate in their democratic duties.
Okay.
Please stand by. Welcome back. Thank you for your patience. The vote has now concluded, and our speakers are back. Minister Pillai, thank you.
Dr. Cameron, thank you. As we've had to deal with the economy and support the economy, we have been, had to monitor and adapt and respond like today. So again, just getting into some of our supports. So again, just looking back at the last year, again, we had just announced a new regional relief loan program for businesses, which covers costs that help businesses stabilize and adapt. Each business with this program can receive up to $100,000 in loans, including the other loan programs offered by the Government of Canada. These loans are interest-free through to December 31st, 2022, with principal payments deferred until then. If the applicant repays 75% of the principal amount off the loan by December 31st, 2022, the balance equal to 25% of the loan will be forgiven. And applications are being accepted until March 31st, 2021. We also have made deliberate and thoughtful efforts to respond to the unique challenges faced by all sectors of our economy. And today I'm pleased to announce details of Yukon's economic resilience plan. Our plan to return Yukon's economy back to pre-pandemic levels and chart a path forward. When we launched our response programs, we promised that we would monitor, adapt, and respond, and this plan reflects that commitment. It details our initial pandemic response, the economic situation, and how our response aligns with the government's priorities and programs. Our plan identified 5 key pillars where we will focus our efforts to ensure Yukon's economy rebounds with the responsiveness and adaptability that all Yukoners remain safe and healthy. So the key pillars we are focusing on with our plan is people, jobs, business supports, infrastructure development, and economic diversification. We recognize that we must meet a range of needs, and we are making deliberate and thoughtful efforts to respond to the unique challenges faced by different sectors. By focusing on these 5 pillars, we will support Yukon's economic adaptation and growth. The first area is people. We recognize that families must be able to meet their critical needs in order to participate in the workforce. That is why we will be focusing our efforts on universal, affordable childcare, a healthcare system with an integrated, collaborative, and person-centered approach, and greater access to affordable housing. Ensuring that Yukoners' needs are addressed will improve health and wellness outcomes and position Yukoners to be active participants in building economic resilience, and we will continue to put people first. And I couldn't be more excited, myself and Mr. McLean, with our colleagues announcing that. For folks, when you talk about economic impact, an individual, family, folks who have two children that are in daycare, as of that period this spring, having up to $1,400 of income that you could now use to support your family, to maybe look at home purchases, all these amazing opportunities that come with that. So again, it's such a foundational piece. Next is jobs. Building upon our foundation of people, jobs is our next focus. Jobs will help support the well-being of families and communities here in Yukon. In order for Yukoners to benefit, they need the right skills and access to good jobs. Programs are being adapted to help workers develop fundamental skills to seize new opportunities. We are helping employers find and retain personnel and helping to connect job seekers with employers. Programs such as the Staffing Up, Building Up, and Working Up programs are being adapted and will support skill development and employment support. Our third is business supports. We have already rolled out a number of funding programs to support local businesses. As an example, businesses across many sectors that are still facing hardship can continue to access the funding through the Yukon Business Relief Program. We responded quickly during the initial pandemic and we will continue to monitor continuously and adapt our programs where needed to address any gaps. Resilience means something different for each business. In addition to funding, we are providing assistance to help local businesses address their unique challenges. So, for example, as many of you have known, the tourism and creative and cultural industries were hit hard by the pandemic. Strategies for these industries were being developed prior to the pandemic. And I commend Minister McLean. I know this was important work beyond the strategy, the tourism strategy that hadn't been updated in 10 years. This is other work that was undertaken. And so, again, being developed prior to the pandemic, and of course will be more important than ever as we support this key area of our economy on the path to resilience. Fourth pillar is a focus on infrastructure development. Infrastructure development projects represent investments in our future prosperity and are focused on long-term benefits. These projects make it easier to access resources, do business in the Yukon, and pave the way for economic diversification. We already initiated several infrastructure projects prior to the pandemic, such as the Dempster Fibre Project, which is underway, and the Yukon Resource Gateway Program, which is underway in many sections of that program, as well as renewable energy infrastructure projects here and our work in northern BC. The Dempster Fibre Project, for example, will provide greater certainty for commercial activities, especially in Yukon's emerging innovation and knowledge sectors. This work is currently underway, and teams have been clearing brush this past year along the route. Similarly, the Yukon Resource Gateway Program and renewable energy projects support long-term growth in our communities and provide a platform for other clean, low-carbon initiatives across the territory. Last week, our government signed the 6th project agreement with the Yukon Resource Gateway Program with the First Nation of Natchinaik-Dun. The project agreement provides funding for the First Nation of Natchinaik-Dun to participate in planning, design, regulatory processes, and construction activities. All of these infrastructure projects align well with our current efforts to stimulate economic growth and diversification, which is our 5th pillar for this plan. A well-diversified economy creates a stable environment for activity, investment, and growth. We will concentrate our efforts on investments that support entrepreneurship and the knowledge economy. We are creating a broad innovation plan and recently concluded the public engagement on that plan. Some other areas of focus for economic diversification will include renewable energy, biomass, and agriculture. Renewable energy is in particular offers numerous economic growth and diversification opportunities for communities and First Nations. Yukon's road ahead is our opportunity to drive progress on our climate commitments and continue our transition to a low-carbon economy. Yukon's climate change strategy, Our Clean Future, details a plan to create immediate and long-term economic benefits, which include employment opportunities and spurring investment in local economies. We are committed to supporting all residents, businesses, and communities. We will continuously monitor, again, adapt and respond as needed and as we move forward. And part of that key work has been both myself and my colleague having continuous conversations with the private sector to understand the reality day to day, and then again going back and working with our teams to make sure that our programs are meeting the needs of those folks in the private sector. Economic resilience is not a single action or policy or program. It is a range of efforts with varying impacts that converge to achieve this goal. Where gaps are identified, we will move swiftly to address them to maximize our recovery. Moving forward, we are working to ensure that the Yukon's economy rebounds with responsiveness and adaptability. Yukon communities recover and are resilient. Our partnerships with First Nations are strengthened, and Yukoners, including vulnerable citizens, are safe and healthy. In closing, I'd like to thank all of the Yukoners for their support. We know this is a difficult path, and we would be doing a disservice to Yukoners to simply assume the worst is behind us. The negative impacts of this pandemic are compounded by the lack of certainty every individual and business is experiencing, lack of uncertainty. While today's announcement is good news for the territory and is a step forward for our economic response, I understand market realities. I encourage all business owners and operators to reach out to the Government of Yukon for help if they need it. And I encourage all Yukoners to buy local, support local, and shop local. Again, we will continue to listen and adjust as needed. Before I turn over to my colleague, I know that we can answer some questions on our plan, and we're going to have that plan hosted today online. We've brought some copies for media that are here. I have to just take a moment to thank the folks at Economic Development. There's folks here with us today. They have done a tremendous amount of work working across government and with departments, really tireless work. There has been, that's the way they took this challenge on in the spring, and that has continued on. And certainly with this particular plan, they have put an incredible amount of work in. Folks have spent a lot of time away from their families doing this work. They're extremely talented. They know how important it is that we have a proper plan going forward. And wow, do we have a talented group of people. And whether it be the programs or this plan, which they've developed for us, this is work, again, that is leading the country. And that's why we are seeing the results that we are, although we know we still have some challenges to overcome. So I want to thank folks. And I just hope that folks at Economic Development are extremely proud of their accomplishments over this last year. I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mr. McLean.
Great. Thank you very much, Minister Pillai. It's really great to stand shoulder to shoulder with my colleague here today. And as I stand here, I envision all of our partners standing shoulder to shoulder, our departments. This has not been only a government response. It's certainly a whole Yukon response, and I feel very proud about that. I, too, want to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Kwanlin First Nation and the Ta'anquachon Council. It has been a year since the pandemic began to impact our territory, and so much has changed. I believe that we will forever be changed. And so I want to just reflect on the resilience plan. And one of the things I've been thinking about quite a lot lately is that resilience is us going back to exactly the way things were. I 100% believe that we will move beyond resilience. Beyond resilient. That's what Yukoners are, and that's what we've shown throughout this pandemic. And we've been tested, and we will come out stronger. We are now in the middle of an extremely successful vaccination program, and following the news this morning, we know that brighter days are on the horizon. I was very, very pleased to listen to our Premier and Dr. Hanley this morning talk to Yukoners about that light at the end of the tunnel. Late last year, we released the Tourism and Relief Recovery Plan as our guiding document to help the tourism sector survive the pandemic and prepare for a strong recovery. And I want to also thank my Department of Tourism and Culture, the staff, and again, all of the partners for all of the hard work that they put into this, and the many, many, many hours that they have worked to ensure that we have the right response for Yukon. Developed in collaboration, of course, with the Yukon Tourism Advisory Board and other tourism stakeholders. The Tourism Relief and Recovery Plan is a 3-year, $15 million investment to help the sector. This funding is in addition to our main tourism budget of $13 million because this sector is vital. It's absolutely vital to our economy. The plan is based on values and pillars of the Yukon Tourism Development Strategy and is flexible and responsive to ensure supports for relief and recovery meet the needs of the sector. This year, we are investing $6.5 million to support our tourism sector, and I know Minister Pillai went over a few of those numbers, but I want to say it again. $4 million is dedicated to tourism relief programs to support operators. The continuation of the tourism accommodation sector supplement and the tourism non-accommodation sector supplement delivered in concert with the Yukon Business Relief Program are key programs that will ensure tourism businesses survive until travel can resume in a normal way. In anticipation of travel resuming this summer, $225,000 will help rebuild confidence in the industry, including support for the adoption of the standardized safe travel protocols for the protection of visitors and residents. Now, I want to just say something specific to businesses around this, that this is being hosted, this initiative, by the Tourism Association of Yukon, and folks are going to be looking for that certification and as we go forward. So please, businesses, get your certification done. And residents, and we're also monitoring residents' perceptions of tourism and community support for tourism. We are working with the Tourism Industry Association, as I've said, on a suite of initiatives to restore confidence and to ensure the industry can return in a way that protects the health and safety of Yukoners and visitors. I want to just elaborate a little bit on the $450,000 that will support the successful the success of the Elevate program for this year. Last year we were fully subscribed. We had 97 adaptation projects which totaled $1.4 million, and 82 businesses sought professional advice, which was about $415,000. This popular program has had significant uptake from the sector, and we will again be contributing this $450,000 this year, and we'll be working towards partnership with Canada as we prepare for recovery. $300,000 will go towards the COVID-19 Tourism Cooperative Marketing Fund that will bring this fund up to $1 million. This program will help support Yukon's tourism-related businesses promote themselves locally, nationally, and globally. Another $500,000 will be invested into an innovative place brand for Yukon known as the Yukon Story, being developed in partnership with the Yukon First Nations Chamber of Commerce. We're working hard to ensure Yukon continues to be seen as a world-class tourism destination as people around the world start to think about traveling again. The territory has a lot to offer, and I think that the values of Yukoners have really shone through in this last year. And when we developed the Yukon Tourism Development Strategy, we absolutely got those values right. And this isn't just the place the world wants to be. I really believe it's a place the world needs to be, and we have that to offer. We will be also investing $250,000 in enhanced Explore Your Yukon campaign to again encourage Yukoners to travel throughout the territory this summer and to support our important tourism sector. Explore Your Yukon will raise awareness of all of the wonderful things to see and do, and encourage Yukoners to rediscover their own backyard and the incredible experiences offered by our tourism industry. I am also pleased to share that we will be committing over $50,000 to a COVID-adapted version of the popular Yukon Explorers Gold Passport contest this summer. So this beloved program is open to Yukoners and will encourage us to learn more about our territory's history and explore Yukon's museums, cultural centres, and historic sites. The program this year will be moving online to better comply with COVID-19 health and safety guidelines. Prizes will include real Yukon gold and much, much more. So stay tuned for that one. Our territory has so much to share, and I know there are many people and families living in our territory, and this will be a great opportunity for them to see our many attractions this summer. This morning's news was very hopeful. As I said earlier, it was great to hear Premier Silver and Dr. Hanley share their optimism about lifting restrictions. As the vaccine rollout continues, we could be ready to welcome visitors again in just a couple of months as we look to travel bubbles with other jurisdictions. After the year we've had, that is exciting news. I know for myself, my husband's son and his wife had baby in December, and we have not been able to see that little baby, and so really looking forward to that. I really want to encourage all Yukoners to do their part by getting immunized and continue practicing the safe 6+1. I know I'm scheduled to get my vaccination, my first shot, tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to that. We have a lot to look forward to, and we will get there together. We're almost there, Yukoners, and I too want to thank the staff at Economic Development and again Tourism and Culture for all of their hard work. And this is this, I think, captures what the vision is for our Yukon as we go forward in this area. We have a lot of work to do, folks, and thank you so much for tuning in and for hearing our messages today.
Thank you, Minister McLean. Thank you, Minister Pillai. We'll now go to our phone line to take questions from media. We'll start with John, CKRW.
Hi, no questions. Thank you.
Thanks, John. We'll move to Steve with CBC.
Hi, this question is for Minister McLean. It cut out a little bit, so maybe you said it, but I just didn't hear it. Are any of these things that you had mentioned actually new, or are they being announced today, or have these already been announced? I'm trying to figure out what exactly is new with this plan.
Well, we released the tourism relief and recovery plan back in at the end of the year, and Minister Pillai and I really wanted to put the picture together for Yukoners to hear the whole plan. And this sector, particularly tourism, has been the first hit, the hardest hit, and will have the longest recovery of all the other sectors. So yes, I have talked somewhat about these, and they're captured. There's 19 actions within the relief and recovery, but I haven't talked publicly about the amounts for this year, which we tabled the main estimates in the legislature on last Thursday, and so I thought it was important to talk to Yukoners about what is contained out of the 15 million that we allocated for relief and recovery for the tourism sector. What is and I did talk about a new initiative around the Travel Local and Explore Our Yukon campaign, and some of the new dollars that are being allocated there. So yes, there are some repeats, but you know what? This again is part of putting together our whole view of our economic recovery. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Minister. This would be for the other minister, Minister Pillai. I believe you said something about affordable housing. Do you have any specific numbers in mind? I'm making this up, but next year we hope to have 100 more affordable housing units in Yukon or something like that. Anything really specific? Any numbers you can share, please?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, and I think when you go through the document, and I'm of course more than willing to have a conversation with you. What we've done is we've broken down. It's a pretty extensive plan that looks at all sectors in all areas, and then of course on those 5 pieces. So if you would just give me a bit of a moment, I'm going to share a couple things with you. First of all, as folks might see online here, I'm going to just, if it's okay, refer to this. So you'll see the essentially the areas where we have specific programs and spend that accompany the overall plan, and then again looking at these number of actions. One specific point that you're speaking to is around affordable housing, and that falls under our pillar that focuses on people. And when you go through the plan, you'll have an opportunity to take a look at really the work that was done around the Yukon Housing Corporation, and really pivoting from the short-term COVID-19 rent assist program that we had in place, and then again moving towards the program that we then adopted from Yukon to the Canada Housing Benefit, which began in November 2020. So there's specifics around different programs we had to help people through this last year, but that's not it. I mean, when you take a look at we'll get our budget that got tabled last week and the commitment there to a number of units that's being built. But over and above that is our commitment to infrastructure spend. And so part of the reason for us being able to speak to this work this week is the fact that we have two really important things that we needed to have in place. And one was, as the minister mentioned, we had to have our budget tabled. And that, of course, was last Thursday. As well, with that budget came an updated economic outlook. We have been working on this plan for quite a while. Again, adapting as we've monitored what is played out in the economy here in the Yukon. And then, of course, culminating with this. So, Steve, I would say that the numbers that are identified in this year's budget under Yukon housing, under lot development, under build-outs of new housing, all of that work is part of the overall strategy that helps us with affordable housing. And that's just one pillar of this. And so I would just, when you do have an opportunity later today to take a look at the plan, you can really focus on page 12. And I think that does a really good job of just illustrating all of the different things that are coming under this. The other point I would make is what I really appreciate about this. It's just not just a plan with a series of items that are not grounded in the priorities of the government. We've been very solid on our enduring priorities throughout this. We listened to Yukoners to pull that together. Then from there, the balance, the values that we've identified, which is being a balanced approach, inclusive, coordinated, responsive, and adaptive, and then from there, the pillars. So this is just a very comprehensive approach, a holistic approach to long-term success in our economy.
Thank you. We'll now go to Haley, Yukon News.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Next, we have Claudiane avec Radio Canada.
Oui, merci. So, is this to sum it up that given you're presenting this plan, which is amalgamating everything that's been done so far, saying that what your approach has been so far is the right approach to keep going, so you are staying on the same path that you have embarked on as far as economic recovery is concerned? Is that what I'm understanding from this plan?
We'll start and then I'll hand it over. So I think that we would say that we're confident in the early programs. I think this today, really, again, identifies the short-term approach that was put in place. And I think, again, we have to always be very sensitive to the folks who are under a tremendous amount of pressure that are in specific areas of the economy and predominantly in the tourism sector. Other areas of the economy have done and fared very well. And so we do believe that when we looked at those initial programs, primarily the business relief program, we were in a situation where we had almost 500 clients to begin with. By September of last year, that was down to about 125 to 150. So, and then we saw some, really extensive record retail sales in the Yukon in the last quarter of 2020. I think just over about almost $820 million. So, and then we've seen that really robust growth around the residential build out here in Whitehorse in the community. So I think that there's many aspects of our plan that we're very confident in, and we believe that we got it right. Part of this was we looked at thought leaders across the globe. One example would be the management consulting group, the Boston Consulting Group, and who were identifying strategies for world leaders. This plan was brilliantly being put together by Yukon government, hardworking public servants, and many of the goals that were identified for countries to follow were already in this plan, and that was really the focus on green energy, updating our where we could our infrastructure. So there are some pieces that have come together, Claudienne, but I also believe, Minister can quickly talk about, we'll talk about the tourism piece, but no, there's things like universal childcare, which is not about to go live until April 1st. We also have one of the largest infrastructure budgets that the territory has ever seen. That again is new spend on all brand new projects, some that have been announced during the throne speech or continuation of projects. And then, of course, this week we announced, last week we announced the first major energy project in the Yukon in over a decade. So, no, I think there's a lot of new items that are here. And we're lucky, as Minister McLean has said in the past, some of the really hard work, maybe not the most exciting for folks, but when you go out and you listen to folks and you build strategies around climate change, around a green economy, around the next 10 years of agriculture, around the next 10 years of renewable energy here at Yukon Energy. And of course, as was talked about, I'll leave it to the minister, I know, and some of her strategies. We're in good shape to be able to have fully endorsed blueprints, and now we're putting in the funds to be able to execute. And I think overall, that's going to lead diversification and a strong economy going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Minister. I'll just say a few other points. I believe that this plan, this resiliency plan, has been a year in the making. We did not, no one ever thought for one moment that we would be governing through a global pandemic 3 years in. But that is, in fact, what we've done. And it's been through careful management and working closely with Yukoners that has got us to where we are today. And yeah, so there's a lot of capturing of what we've done in this and summing it up for Yukoners, and then adding in what all of the other strategies and how they fit together. And I think that's really important. And I do want to just touch, I know the ministers talked a little bit about the universal childcare and all of the work that I've done. I'll put my women's directorate hat on for a minute, that in order to have real economic recovery, we need to have childcare systems that work for women and that work for families. And I had the opportunity to be part of federal, provincial, territorial discussions around how we recover from this and the impact on women. And the single most important investment that was recommended to us was universal childcare and good childcare systems. It's referred to, there's a term being used, she-covery, and that is being used worldwide. And so when I was able to share the fact that Yukon is moving towards universal childcare, again, a Yukon that leads. I think that this is absolutely one of the key areas for our for women in the territory to get back into the workforce and to support young families and to support Yukoners. I also know that, we talk about some of the big sectors within our territory, like tourism and mining and energy and all of these areas, but the creative and cultural industry strategy that the minister referred to, we've worked on that for the last couple of years. It's the first strategy that focuses on this in Yukon. So I'm really proud of that work that we've done again with Yukoners, and that's going to shape out the next 10 years and really build out what the possibility is for creative and cultural, that creative and cultural industry in Yukon. We had a 10-year plan when we came into COVID-19 for tourism development, and and that has guided us. We are the envy of the country in terms of having a well thought out value-based plan that absolutely fits with where we need to go as a territory. So really proud of all of the work. That is not a Yukon government plan. That is a Yukon plan. Fully. And so I just wanted to say those couple of things. So yes, we are capturing, what we've done over the last year. There was no roadmap for this, and we've created it. And I think a Yukon that leads is what resonates for me as we've gone through this.
Thank you, Claudiane. Do you have a follow-up?
I do. Let's see if I can. Thank you very much for that lengthy answer. I see a lot of keywords, or I hear a lot of keywords and almost slogans in there. Given the budget being tabled and some obviously looming elections coming, how much flexibility do you think you'll be able to put into that plan? How much more money could you inject if needs be in the coming weeks or months to address the situation?
I can ask for clarification. Sorry, Claudiane, and I know that we did identify a number of sector-specific plans that we have. Just for clarification, you're asking about further investment potentially into our resiliency plan that we're tabling today?
Yeah, we never know. I mean, this is obviously a moving situation. The pandemic, if the COVID variants happen to not respond well to the vaccines, things get off track, things don't look as good. You're presenting a plan that sounds like it's pretty final. That's the plan you're presenting. The budget is in. Elections are to be called anytime. So really, what's your flexibility financially to be able to help businesses that may feel this is not enough?
Absolutely. Well, I can say that just to start, our budget, of course, as you remember, has a $15 million contingency in it, which really means that we were walking in last week with a $3 million surplus, but I think it was very smart by folks to make sure we had that. I'm gonna hand it over to Minister McLean just to maybe speak to that.
I just, in terms of the flexibility around the tourism relief and recovery, it was built on that foundation that we knew that we needed to balance relief and recovery as we've gone through this. So it's complete flexibility. We've already had to adjust from from this fiscal year into the next. We've had to adjust knowing the reality of where we are today, because there was absolutely no crystal ball in terms of what we would be facing in March. And now we're in a situation where Yukon is in a situation where we're rolling out the vaccinations. We're the first, in the country to likely reach herd immunity. And, so it was built on that basis that as things progress and things improve, we will focus more on recovery and in those aspects. I mean, there's 19 actions. One of the 19 actions is relief. The other 18 are about recovery. And so we built it in that way to just create that flexibility and to, I can say that this has been a monumental task for our finance department to work within the parameters of our financial act and to be able to pivot and adjust. And so I really thank all of the finance staff across the whole of government, because they have done a really tremendous job in working with us to ensure that Yukoners have what they need. I know that there's lots of talk about the election, pending election. Yeah, we do have to have an election this year, but you know what? Our focus really has been on taking care of Yukoners, ensuring that things are in place for them, and that we haven't let up. We've continued to make to be here every day to respond and to ensure that when an election is called, Yukoners are the right programs are in place for them as we go through that process.
Thank you. We'll now move to Tim with the Whitehorse Star.
Thank you. I have only one question. A lot of points have been touched upon already. My question is going to be, and I'm going to be provocative here, considering that this is a rehash of already existing programs and basically no new funding announcements, what were you hoping to accomplish with this news conference?
Let me speak to that one, Tim. I don't know if it's provocative. I don't think it's accurate. Actually, what we were sharing today is, first of all, a series of or a blueprint that puts together both the budget that was just announced, the Minister of Tourism identifying a new strategy for local spend and marketing. Of course, that comes on the heels of the fact that we just this morning have seen that there's the potential for having some restrictions removed potentially in less than 2 months. Of course, that's always difficult, and part of the challenge with this is, as other journalists have identified today, and as Claudiane said, it can be a moving target. Like everybody wants certainty, but you can only make plans based on the information you have. And so we wanted to make sure that we had the updated economic outlook. We needed to make sure that we had our budget in place. And then, of course, now that we're seeing it's time for us to be ready to expend the dollars that are in place and to ignite the plans that have been worked on. And so that's part of what we're sharing today, and I think it's pertinent information. I believe there's a number of things here that are new, whether it's some of the initiatives around ensuring that our local economy and our spend is happening to start. I'm really excited about that work because having been in the private sector and overseeing a number of operations at once in this community, I can tell you it takes some time to staff up. You need to make sure your marketing's in place. Folks are turning over and getting going again. And so those are all really important signals. Again, today, the other piece, Tim, which I think is important is, I think this morning they talked about the clinic, which is the walk-in clinic. And we can't say enough how important it is that not only that you get ready for an opening in the private sector if your business has been dormant, but also that you are in a position that, and I've learned this from Minister McLean, as in other jurisdictions, you please make sure you have a strategy to get your staff vaccinated. It will be so important. So today's a signal that we are getting ready to get this economy moving in full with the information that we have today. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank everyone for their time today and especially their patience as we had to take a brief pause from this announcement. As you heard this morning, the next COVID update will not be next week, it'll be the following week. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much.